Hi, welcome to this algebra tutorial. Today we're going to talk about factoring, just traditional factoring, or what I call traditional factoring. So say for instance you have something, say 3x squared plus 9x minus 30. So the very first thing that you want to check whenever you're asked to factor something is check to see if there is a greatest common factor, meaning something that all of your terms have in common. So we ask ourselves, is there something that each of these terms have in common that we could factor out? Well, in this case, they do. Each of them have a 3, meaning they're each divisible by 3. So the very first thing that I want to do, and the very first thing I always want to check whenever I'm asked to factor, is check to see if there's a greatest common factor. So I write that factor out front, and then in parentheses, it's almost like a reverse distribution. I then divide each of these terms by what I just factored out, and what's left is what stays inside the parentheses. So for instance, 3x squared divided by 3 leaves me with x squared. The positive 9x divided by 3 leaves me with 3x, and the negative 30 divided by 3 leaves me with minus 10. So again, that's the first step whenever you're doing any type of factoring, is to check to see if there's a greatest common factor that you can bring out front first. Once we have that, now we're just concerned with this inside piece, the part that's inside the parentheses. So we know that we need to find factors of negative 10 that add up to positive 3. I'll say that again. Factors of negative 10 that add up to positive 3. So I'm going to come over off here in the side. Well, factors of negative 10 could be negative 1 and 10, or it could also be 1 or negative 10, or it could be negative 2 and 5, or again, it could be 2 and negative 5. And so over here, I'm looking for which of these pairs add up to positive 3. So looking at this, I know that the 1 and 10 will not give me that. Which of these is going to add up to positive 3? That's right, we need the negative 2 and positive 5. So then how I write my next step, now this 3 out front just carries along with it, is I write 2 sets of parentheses like this. And then my x, I split up and I put an x at the front of each set of parentheses. And then I take my factors, the ones that I found that added up to positive 3, and I write those in the inside of the parentheses along with those x's. And since I had a negative 2, I write that as a x minus 2. And because it was a positive 5, I write that as x plus 5. And this here is indeed our final answer. Now, it's always a good rule of thumb to make sure your final answer actually works and gives you back your original expression. So what I can do is I can FOIL this out. Remember, we learned about foiling. And I can then see if that's going to give me my original. So when I do that, I get x squared plus 5x minus 2x minus 10. I combine those middle terms, and that gives me x squared plus 3x. We're looking like we're in good shape. And then lastly, I distribute that 3. So 3x squared plus 9x minus 30. And that in fact does match my original expression, so that checks out, meaning that this here is our final answer, our fully factored form of our expression. So try this out. Whenever you're asked to factor, remember, check to see if there's a greatest common factor first, and then try this method. If not, you might have to try a different method in your factoring toolkit. Good luck!